Morning, how are you doing? It's Tuesday, 8th of November 2022, and we are here back again. Smart means business and leading business conversations all over the region of East Africa. Hope you're doing great, hope you're doing okay. And of course, it's the second hour of the show, your daily Kickstarter, as we take you through the business world with valid business information as it's supposed to be. Discussions that are vital and discussions that are quite relevant to the business community is what we champion here on Smart 24 TV, as we lead more than the expected discussions as well. But also, speaking of which, as we continue to understand the scope of business in Uganda, you get to realize there are certain things that we should definitely hint on a daily to try and understand what is happening not only in Uganda but also away from Uganda. And as a matter of fact, today's topic of discussion is going to be rotating around labor in the country, but also labor out of the country now, of which this includes human trafficking cases and also including labor externalization or labor export that most of you do know, but as well say labor migration away from Uganda. So that is exactly what our topic is going to be rotating around: labor externalization issues in the country. Quite a number of details coming in from there, and that is what we want to at least analyze and see how far is everything moving. And to discuss more of this particular one here this morning, I do have Lydia Buite, who is the Director of Programs at Platform for Labor Action. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you so much for hosting us.
All right.
Yes.
And just a brief, if someone would understand, what does the Platform for Labor Action do? Are you a platform that is actually giving a voice to Ugandans who are moving out to go and work abroad, or it is also a platform for Ugandans working in the country?
Okay, thank you so much. Good morning once again, our dear viewers. My name is Lydia Buite. I work with Platform for Labor Action. Platform for Labor Action is a non-government organization that was founded in the year 2000 with the sole aim of promoting and protecting the rights of vulnerable and marginalized workers in Uganda. So quickly to answer the question that you've raised, the organization doesn't only look at workers who are going to work out of this country, but actually focuses more on the workers that are working in this particular country. As an organization, we are also an accredited legal aid service provider by Uganda Law Council, and therefore we provide what we call legal aid services to these vulnerable and marginalized workers, migrant workers inclusive, but also we target children at risk or those in exploitative forms of work. We target workers in the informal economy. We target low-income earners. So that's the category of workers that we focus on. So as an organization, we do give legal aid services, like I said. We do awareness raising because we believe that the worker and the employer, they will not know their rights and responsibilities for them to work in an harmonious environment. So we do create awareness. We also undertake what we call legal advocacy on issues that affect those categories of workers that I have mentioned, right, to inform legal and policy frameworks around them. So we do quite a number of interventions.
When you mentioned the legal framework, here in Uganda, I believe when someone mention something to do with the legal, our first mind is the courts of law. Should we say in the country, you are a platform that can easily speak for someone in case, for example, they have a case in court?
Yes, and one of our direct service provision is legal representation in courts of law, in the labor offices, for these particular workers, because you see, cases for workers in Uganda from the labor office, but also even holding mediations with the employers. So yeah, we represent that worker with a voice, and it is legal aid. It's free of charge, not that you pay for it. But when you fall in those categories of workers that I have mentioned.
All right, and speaking of working away from Uganda, which is labor externalization or labor export, if we are to look at some of the figures from the government, is that 98% of employees that are exported or that are externalized to go and work away from Uganda are in the Middle East. Speaking of which, Saudi Arabia taking top notch. We have countries like Qatar in there. We have quite a number of Ugandans working in Qatar, United Arab Emirates, although we've been hearing some cases of deportation. That annoys what we're going to be discussing here, deportation in Qatar, UAE. But then amongst all those countries, you can realize most of the Ugandans who are traveling to go and work or seek for greener pastures heading to the Middle East. And the figures here number close to 140,000, 402. That is according to the numbers. But if you see, quite a number of Ugandans every other year do go out of the country. And as we speak, you may actually find that there are some who are actually preparing to fly off today. But that is something that we may, on the other hand, be proud of or not be proud of. But if we are to be proud, I believe the best way to be proud is, if at all, they are safe where they've gone. Now let's speak of labor externalization.
Yes.
We have a number of Ugandans that move out. Now it's something that we've normalized. Back in the time, we actually thought it's not right for us to let go of people moving out, but then the available job space here in the country does not favor them, so they have to seek for better jobs. But now we're having cases of mischiefs here and there, people who travel out. I need to understand what really happens before someone moves out of the country to go and seek for employment.
Thank you, Paul. First and foremost, to our dear viewers, labor migration or migration in general is not a problem.
Oh, okay.
It isn't a problem. Because once we look at it as a problem, you know, when you're faced with a problem, you work hard to remove that problem. But labor migration is a fact of life, just like another migration. It's a fact of life. And labor migration, people have migrated for work long before this generation, and they will work even after this generation. So why people migrate for different reasons, especially when it comes to work. There are different reasons why they are forced to say, you know what, I'm going to migrate. Prior to that, I remember our years, we used to hear things like cheyo, you know. That was the phrase word that time, oh, the person is out of the country, is going to do cheyo. So now, looking at what is the procedure for any Ugandan out there who wishes, because of different reasons and circumstances, who wishes to say, I should go and work from outside Uganda. First and foremost, it's very important that as you make, before even you make this decision, we have, in labor migration, we have 4 stages of migration.
Okay. We
have what we call the pre-decision migration. In other words, before you make a decision to say, I'm going to work abroad, these are things that you need to look out for. Which country? That is one. Which job are you going to do? Does that country allow such people of that qualification to enter and work in that country? That is at the pre-decision, okay? You are forming your mind to say, I want to go and work abroad. And then you're asking yourself, how am I going to go? What procedure am I going to use to go to work in that country that I have decided on to go and work into? Now, that is forming part of the pre-decision. There are also other factors that in the pre-decision making process. You're asking yourself, if, for example, if you're a mother like me, you'd ask yourself, if I went, reasons, why am I going? Okay. If I went and I have children, who is going to stay with my kids? So all that is forming part of the pre-decision. Okay. The second stage that we look at is the recruitment stage. Okay. Now, that is where I think you ask the question, what steps should someone take? After having made that, from that decision that, you know what, I want to go and work abroad. And you ask yourself what procedures. So we start asking ourselves. Uganda as a country, as a government of Uganda, has taken labor externalization as a policy issue, because it is one of the interim measures that the government is using to address one of the key development challenges that this country is faced with, which is unemployment, coupled with poverty on top of it. So because it is a policy, sort of like direction, we see in the National Employment Policy of 2011, the government came up and said they will externalize labor, those that wish to go and work from abroad. In doing that, we have the government licenses registered companies. You first have to register that company, and then you go and get a license from the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development to be allowed to take Ugandans to work abroad. So for anyone who is who has formed a decision that they are going to work abroad, they have to use a registered and licensed company by the government of Uganda.
You see, this is
to avoid what?
You see, this is the trick. The trick. I'm sorry to cut you short. I'll let you. When you talk about someone moving into a licensed company or going to a licensed company,
yes,
if you get to realize some of the cases people get to find is that however much you're yearning, remember now you're in a rush sometimes, you want to get out of the country real fast. And sometimes some companies have ranges in prices if they were to help you move out of the country. How do you tell that this company is licensed and the other isn't, or the license they've got is
still valid?
Yes.
Okay. How do we tell that this company is licensed and maybe they have not been suspended?
Okay.
The government, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, on their website, okay, they have put up a system called the MS. That system, when you go there, they are able to enlist for you the companies that are licensed companies. And let me tell us, even if where you are today as we're watching us, you don't have a smartphone, okay? A neighbor can help. A friend can just log in and be able to know. So we always need to confirm that this is this company. However, if you cannot access the internet to be able to access this system, you go to the nearby sub-county Giso, okay? Gombolola, internal security officer, whom we call Giso. Go to the labor offices at the district level and confirm. Go to the RDC's office, go to the DSO's office. Those offices, they receive periodically, they receive these lists of these companies. The Ministry of Gender shares these lists with them, so that they are trying to take this information nearer to the would-be migrants. So go and confirm. If I come, company A is saying it is registered, or a person has come from company A, has come to your village, and they are saying they take people abroad, they are licensed. Yes, write down that company, you've formed that, but take another step, because you see, before, so that you do not end up to be a victim of trafficking in person, which you talked about, that where sometimes we see that people end up being victims of illegal recruitment practices. So we're talking about, if I have formed a decision that I want to go and work abroad, the first step is please use or look for a registered and licensed company. When you reach in this particular company, what are you expected to look out for? Okay. Remember, at the pre-decision stage, you ask yourself, I want to go and work there, for example, in UAE. What job am I going to do there? So if you form that decision, then ask this company, do you have such and such jobs available? Okay. Do you take people, for example, who are going to work in construction, or who are going to work as domestic workers, or cleaners, or lawyers, whichever profession you want to go and work in a particular country. So then you get to know if this company has job offering for such job that you are looking for. If they don't, perhaps try to the next company and see if they have. And maybe if you say, okay, at that point you can also change your mind and say, you know what, I was looking for a lawyer job, but maybe they don't have. I can go and be, I don't know which job there comes in, a secretary, and that's because what they have, then maybe you go. Or, as I'm looking for a lawyer job, but I can go and be a cleaner, it is okay if you have made that decision. So, you've reached the company, it is licensed and registered. The second thing, you have asked them about available job opportunities. Do they fit in your predetermined decision that you're taking? If they don't, check with the next company. Okay. If not,
you're still following the same procedure.
Same procedure that you're following. Once you are there, let's say you have agreed that you're going to do a job of, let's say, cleaning. This company also now, it will take on. Of course, for anyone who is going to work abroad, you have to have documentation. You have to undergo interviews as a person. Once that is done, the ministry then, this company, what I didn't talk about is that for any company that is registered, when you have any job opening, what we call a job order, okay? A job order comes from the foreign country, and you're working with a different company the other side. So when it comes, this company in Uganda takes that job order. That job order includes what? The number of people needed, what qualifications, how long are they going to work, what is their contract, how much will they be paid, what are the benefits. So you get, that company gets those things and takes them to the Ministry of Gender. For what? For approval. Because the government wants that by the time a Ugandan is leaving this country, they know where Lydia has gone to work. And indeed, they know that Lydia has gone to work in a job that exists, not in a non-existing what? Job.
Let's look at these interviews.
Yes.
I pretty much guess the interviews are conducted depending on the sort of job that you're looking for. Right?
Yes.
So at the end of the day, there are questions that I've actually been forced to ask a couple of times. One of which is, for example, if someone is applying to get a job as a driver in, for example, the United Arab Emirates. Now, in such scenarios, you get to realize the traffic laws the other side are quite different from ours.
Yes.
And the level of experience one may have here for 10 years may not be the same that is needed to drive on such highways in the United Arab Emirates. And then some people apparently have found themselves in trouble once they move out of the country, after they've passed interviews here, road tests and all that. Then they are denied the exact jobs in the UAE or any other country. Why or where would be the case, regardless of which company they actually use to travel?
Yeah, like you stated, like because we have sort of like some different traffic rules on the road. So if someone has applied for the job of driving, they will do a test here. Okay. But in most cases, the company on the other side, when this person goes, they will spend another 3 months also trying to test them on those particular roads, so then they don't, they don't end up, violating the traffic rules and regulation. But however, I also understand you that there are some people who say you've signed a contract here, you're going to work as a driver, and then you reach there, and the other company tells you no, the job for driving is not there. We have only a job for cleaner. Yes, already that is breaching the contract.
True.
That's a starting point for breaching the contract.
But yet you're already out of the country.
Yes, I'm already out of the country, but the company that has taken you and the other company, they have a responsibility and a duty to bring you back if you raise an alarm. Because my contract I signed, that even the government knows, remember by the time I'm leaving, the government knows Lydia has gone to UAE as a driver. Now, when I reach in UAE and the company starts telling me that no, the job for driving is not there, but instead we have the job of a cleaner, now take it up. If me in my own decision I say no, I cannot do the job of cleaning because I came here for the job of driving, I can tell you, Paul, that that person can proceed against the company. In fact, the company here in Uganda, because the company in Uganda has a duty to ensure that the job I'm recruiting this person for, indeed it exists. And it should be that it does not exist, meaning this person has a right. One of the rights as a migrant worker is to do the job you set out to do. And if it's not the job and I make that decision to say, you know what, I am going back, the company will have to bring back that person. Why? Because it is not this worker who has breached the contract. No, it is the company that has breached the contract. Okay. Yes.
But then, do these people have voices away from Uganda? Because we believe we have embassies that represent us, for example, Saudi Arabia, UAE. Do they have a voice they can run to immediately such a case scenario happens?
The thing is that the mechanisms are there. Even in the countries of this nation, these mechanisms are there. But what happens is this, just like here in Uganda, there are few people even who report about their rights violations. Even that they happen and they know this right has been violated, but they say, you know what, I don't want to report. There is also another vulnerability that comes with being in a foreign country, okay? You're in a foreign country, you are in UAE, for example, and remember, by the time most people, migrants are migrating, they remember the reason why they are migrating in most cases is because they are looking for employment. That is one. Two, either because they are looking for a better paying job. So when they're in another country, they are telling themselves, okay, can I go back to the situation where I was, or should I stay here? Or can I just accept this particular job? But if they wanted to raise this issue, they can raise it. They can raise it even to the authorities of that country. And why? Because it will be very clear. I was brought from Uganda that I'm going to work this. Reaching here, they're telling me this job, and I'm telling them, take me back. Because the one thing is that the laws around labor migration, okay, generally, at global level, okay, the migrant who has been recruited for labor, they should be able to do that work that they have been recruited for. Once they are deviated, that is a breach of contract. Once they are being threatened, because some even are even threatened, I say now, if you don't want to do the available job, you return this amount of money. Remember that the factors why some people migrate for work. They leave maybe because they are unemployed. Now you're telling them to return this money. So you're putting them in a condition of debt bondage. You're putting them in a condition of forced labor. So that's why at the global level, even at the International Labour Organization, has come up with conventions, laws, and standards, and saying no, as a migrant worker, they should be able to have such and such. One of the rights is the right to redress in the countries of destination. So they can, besides the embassy. So when they go, for example, if they went to the authorities of UAE, the UAE then would refer and perhaps call on the Ugandan embassy and say, one of your citizens is here and has reported ABCD, and then it can be backtracked from that particular angle. But in the meantime, also this particular migrant has a right to either inform the people back home, and the people back home can also kickstart a process that engages with this company that has taken this person. Yes.
All right. And for the viewers out there, just to give you a brief of some figures here. According to a 2022 report by the African Institute for Strategic and Policy, that is the AISP, which is an African Self-Migration Index, it indicates that 195,000 Ugandan migrant workers are currently in Saudi Arabia. Now, of which, also on the other hand, the report also indicates that labor externalization contributes 4.5 trillion Ugandan shillings as revenue to the gross domestic products. Now, this is higher than the coffee export receipts, if you had to put it in figures, according to the African Institute for Strategy and Policy. And here, we are ideally looking at labor externalization in Uganda. What really goes wrong behind closed doors before we look at these figures that are being deported back to Uganda, or those that are actually suffering to get the jobs in there. Now, in the space of that, before we go in for a break, I need to as well understand. We've got people who travel on their own.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, once things backfire, they are again running back to the government. Of course, they have to run back to the government because it's
the primary duty bearer.
Yes. In such situations, which kind of advice would you give to someone who is in that situation? I've taken myself out of the country looking for a better job. I have failed to get the job. Now, either way, I'm actually now a criminal.
In the other country?
Overseas.
In the other country, I'm a criminal.
Yes.
And this country, you lied to the authorities.
Yes, you did.
You know, sometimes we just need to call a spade a spade. And I was following the discussion in Parliament, and some of the on one of the television in Uganda, and regarding these people who had been arrested, okay, by the government of UAE, and now they are being deported. I think what I can tell our viewers today is that if you are looking for employment, especially in the UAE, please go through a registered and licensed company. Paul, let me tell you, of the people that were being deported, none of them had gone through a registered and licensed company to go to the UAE. They left this country, they lied to the authorities of this country and said, we are going for visitation to tour UAE. But at the back of their mind, they knew for sure that they're not going to tour. They are going to work for work. They're going to look for work. And now, when you start faulting, you're lying the authorities back from your own government, from which the government you're going to call upon and say, I am stuck, please come to my rescue. But also, at the same time, you are also violating the laws of the other destination country. Because if you're a visitor, 3 months, you should be exiting the country. So I tell us, especially the youth of this country, kindly don't be lied to. Because also, Paul, what is happening that in UAE, we have agents, okay? We have agents who call upon these young people and say, you come, we'll get for you a job. And those are people whom we call that.
Ugandan agents?
They're Ugandan agents. Okay. And those are people whom we call traffickers.
So they are people who are ready to get you a job even when it's not available.
They're traffickers.
Because they're going to earn from you.
Yeah, because they're going to earn from you. They're going to exploit you at the end of the day.
Okay.
You go to Dubai malls, you find Ugandan girls seated in a mall and you ask, what are you doing here? I'm looking for a job. I'm like, okay. So in a mall, there are jobs. Yeah, people come. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So I call upon Ugandans, especially the young people, please do not go out of this country. One, lying the authorities of this country. Two, violating the laws of the country where you're going. Instead, use the proper labor migration channels the government has put in place. Now, Paul, let me tell you this. It does not mean that when the government puts in place the proper legal migration channels, when you reach at your workplace, you will not face challenges. You will face challenges, but when you face those challenges, the government, your relatives and friends, they have somewhere to start from. These are people whom we just saw, 3,000 Ugandans have been arrested. But even the government was not aware that these particular people, actually, they are there in UAE. They are overstaying in UAE, okay? But at the same time, it's a government now to incur and other well-wishers to bring you back, okay? Why? Because the government has put in place channels, use them to go. Because let me tell you, the people who say, it's because as young people, we are always on the move. We want things very, very, very fast. Because this process I was talking about, it will take about maximum about 3 months. Ideally, it should take about maximum 3 months, keeping all other factors constant. That you will be at the company, the job, the interview, processing of your passport, visa, pre-departure orientation, about 3 months. And that's what the law is saying, that within 3 months, the company should have deployed you. And if they have not deployed you within 3 months, then they should refund whatever what you have paid for at that point. Now, these people that you saw there saying that they were arrested, of course, they were illegally in that country. They even put in more money than the money they would have put in when they went through a company. Because the other illegal recruiters or the traffickers that say, they ask for expensive sums of money. And these people, you can't even ask for a refund. You don't know. You understand? So you look for about 5 million shillings to go, on a visiting visa. Because when you reach there, they say, no, pay for this one, pay for that one, pay for this one. But if you use the same amount of money, for example, and went through a proper company, which company the government, because if they were stuck and had been taken by the company, what the government would have done would have been like this. Company A, B, C, D, E, you took these people, we want them back. Because that's what the law says, that any liabilities that arises as a result of using the license that the government has given to this company, the company is held liable. So if those people had been taken by any company registered, then we would have held the company responsible. So what I advise the young people, please go through the proper channels to avoid such instances. And now you see what has happened, that because we have violated and the laws of the other country, now they're even putting a bar on Uganda in terms of being given tourist visas. And yet
others are actually returning.
Yeah, and yet there could be genuine people who want to go to Dubai or UAE and tour, you understand, genuine. But because we have abused it.
On that note, we shall be returning with more discussions after the break. Meanwhile, after the break, we speak more on human trafficking and why do we have more cases rising every other day, and also which way are we going to solve these issues, by the way. But also, on the other hand, looking at how can a Ugandan identify the company to use while seeking for a job abroad, and then what should you do once you're on the other side? Because now most of the play game is always here, but then what are you going to do once you're in danger the other side of the world, when you're away from Uganda and then you're overseas, you have no relative there, it is you against all the odds. We will be back after the break to discuss more on labor externalization issues in the country. Good morning.